So, how did your week go? Mine had a little bit of this guy, and him.
Oopsie.
But there was also a decent amount of this, a fair amount of these, and even time for one of these. I am just another sim guy. If you're a fan of sim racing, iRacing, all sorts of racing, motor racing, close racing, and even wet racing, then do stick around. You're in for a treat. Thanks for joining me for my iRacing weekly update. So I'll leave these Mazda highlights running in the background. Did a couple of Mazda races this week. This week we were at Road Atlanta, which is a track I really like. Not particularly competitive on it, if I'm honest. I was struggling in the qualifying to get anywhere in the top 10. But because I was reasonably consistent and sensible and mostly managed to avoid the drama, there were times when I started 17th or 18th and managed to finish sort of 11th or 12th. So yeah, not all bad. I mean, the track was looking fantastic in the sun, and really packed fields, really close racing. So really enjoyed that one. Also this week, I took the Civics around Road Atlanta as well in the TCL. Had some reasonably good races there. Again, avoided the drama. Was more competitive in that one, so gained some iRating finishing in the top 5. That was really enjoyable. Much different car to drive. I mean, I really love it, but it's much different, and just a really good experience and some really close racing. It always seems like a really respectful field of drivers in the TCRs. Other people did make a few mishaps, and there were some crashes. But they look to be down to mistakes rather than being malicious. So yeah, really enjoyed it this week in sports car. The other race I did was a spec Ford race. Now there's a link to that here. I would encourage you to watch that one through to the end. Like really good race from start to finish. I messed up on T1, ended up in last place, managed to fight my way back to 4th, basically taking 4th place on one of the very last corners. So that was amazing. If you've got some time to spare and you can stick it on in the background and enjoy it for what it is, then I'd really encourage you to do so. So I'll go through my sports car and my Formula licenses in a little while. But before I do so, if you're new to the channel and you're liking what you see so far, please consider dropping me a sub. I'd really appreciate it. It would mean a lot. It means a hell of a lot to small growing channels like me. It really helps YouTube to push the content out there. So any likes, any comments you can give, any feedback, please do sub. Anybody you can share it with, any Facebook groups you can pop it into, anything like that. Join us on the Discord as well, because we've got a really good growing community of people there. iRacing is quite big in the group, but we've got a really big following for Race Room, AMS2, Assetto Corsa Evo as it gets better. We've got people racing in LMU as well, the original Assetto Corsa and all of its mods that it offers. There's always something great going on in the group. We've got people doing community races left, right and centre, not just me. So I'm looking for it to be a bit of a hub for all things sim racing. There's advice on VR, there's tech stuff, optimization stuff, people sharing their rigs, what equipment they're buying, sharing advice on what equipment they've bought in the past, what they like, what they don't like, what to avoid, who's got good customer service, all sorts of really good, interesting conversations. So yeah, do get involved and join us. But as you can see, yeah, the Mazda race, it was clean, it was good, it was competitive. I mean, I wasn't exactly fighting for the front, but to me, it's like if you've got 2 or 3 cars behind you, 3 or 4 cars ahead of you, and everybody's being close and respectful, swapping positions, getting some draft, being respectful in the corners, not dive bombing, giving space where it's needed, but also, being aggressive and fighting for that position. If you can get that for a 15, 20, 25, 30-minute race most of the way around, then I don't think it really much matters, and it certainly doesn't matter to me whether I'm fighting for 10th place, 2nd place, or 15th place. That is what it's all about. That's what gives you the buzz. That's what keeps you interested. So this Mazda race was a good example of one of those. I think I ended up finishing about 11th, I think. Anyway, so on to the Formula side of things. Now, there really was a mix in Formula this week. I stayed in the Formula 1600 Ray, um, and that was Bathurst. Love the track. I love the flow, and also I didn't realise at the start of the week that it was going to be sort of random weather, so that was a really welcome addition. I love the rain in iRacing, so I went into sessions where the rain was in the practice, qualifying had puddles, but the race didn't, or the qualifying had puddles and it rained in the race, and then I went into completely dry ones. So it was a proper mix, but it really adds a new dimension. I mean, I don't go as far as strategy and stuff. I did sort of try playing around with the fuel a little bit, and there's a funny story about that. But Yeah, I mean, it was a hell of a mix. I always qualified half decent. I always gained some I rating in the ones I did well in because I was in a split where there wasn't enough for multiple splits. So I was in splits with 7,500, 5,000, 4,000 people. If I got into the top six, I managed to gain a few. So my rating on Formula this week had a nice big bump towards the end of the week. And going into the last night of the season, which we streamed, the last night of the week of the season, which we did live on stream, I was at 1927, really, really, really pushing for that 2000. And there were races that I had 40 or 50, so I knew it was possible. And then I had some of the worst luck I had all week. First, every crash was nothing to do with me. One guy punted me from behind, that was in the intro. Um, Two other guys crashed next to me, and one of them span and hit me. That was in the intro. And unfortunately for me, they resulted in meatball flags. Even though the second one, my car was driving fine, I had to go in. And then when I came out, obviously, then you're pretty much fighting from the back, and you're going to struggle to get any I rating. So I lost about 25 or 30. Then I lost about another 10, and then I lost a bit more. So I ended up lower than I wanted to be. I'm under 1900 again. But it's still, at the end of the week, it's still higher than it was at the beginning of the week, even with that in mind. And one of my favourite races was this one that's playing in the background. I started off P2 in the qualifying, had a really, really good race with the guy that started P1, managed to get him on turn one and keep it safe. You see, I almost lost it there on that corner, and that happened to me several times where I overdrove the car. This guy was really clean, really respectful. So big shout out to you, Kenneth, whoever you are. And also Josh in P3. See there, we put me under a little bit of pressure, and I'm not used to being at the front, if I'm honest. So when that happens to me and I end up leading the pack, sometimes I do find myself making mistakes because I'm worried about what's going on behind me. Once I get back into P2 or P3, you'll see that I push, because when I'm chasing, it feels like I've got more to do, and it feels like I've got something to focus on. That could be down to me. Maybe I use other cars braking as a reference, and I shouldn't. Maybe I just don't like the pressure of people chasing me, and I'm worried that they're going to crash into me. But whatever the case may be, I'm always better, sort of behind someone than in front, if you know what I mean. So, but yeah, we had a great race. The three of us were really close together. There's another. This is going to get its own video, so do sub and keep your eye out for that, because it's definitely worth watching. There was such a lot of drama. Even fourth place was close behind at one point, and then unfortunately I was in third, P2 crashed, and then P1 got away from me a little bit, then he got involved with a back marker, so he crashed out, and then I ended up being 30 seconds ahead, and then I had a fuel issue, so I ended up coasting down the mountain on the last few laps to save fuel, but I was so far ahead I still ended up winning by like 15 seconds. Not quite sure what happened. I think there was an accident and people got held up in it. So the sort of things that happen to me do happen to other people, and it's swings and roundabouts, as they say. You take the bad with the good, and whilst I got lucky in a few races and managed to scoot past some crashes and pick up a higher place than I probably deserved, there were races where I definitely got involved with other people's nonsense and finished in a lower place than I deserved. But that's just the way it goes. But unfortunately, my quest for the 2K I rating in the Formula this week didn't happen, but that is going to be one of my goals for next week. But it was just really, really good, consistent fun, even in the ones when I was taken out, and even in the moment when I'm seething and livid that it's ruined my race. Getting back on the track, chasing people down and trying to fight for a slightly better position was still really, really enjoyable. And that is what it's all about. It's not all about the numbers. We don't have to focus on the numbers. Unfortunately, if you're like me, you do use it as a gauge to measure your own performance and improvement. But, you know, at the end of the day, we all do this for fun, and we need to get the best out of it and remember why we're doing it sometimes. So yeah, so the Formula races at Bathurst, there were some good, some bad. Some people are just way too impatient, especially on lap one, like, and especially in the wet. Who's trying to barge past people, going down the S's? You know, when there's puddles and we're on lap one and everybody's all bunched together. Just if it's you and you're listening, give a little bit of space. All right, I don't care who I upset. Just give a little bit of space. Be respectful. If you're quicker and you're following someone, if they've got my mindset, we're a few turns away from you being able to draft me down the long straight, you know, on the second half of the lap, and you'll get past because these cars, you know, really work well with the draft. So if you're that close, just lay off a little bit going through the S's because you don't know how cautious people are going to be with cold tyres. I don't know. It's not rocket science, guys, is it? But anyway, as you can tell, I'm not going off on a rant, and it definitely didn't annoy me. But here we go. So a good week all in all. And the rain race was just so much fun. Again, scooted past people, they were making mistakes, and then unfortunately I got caught up in someone else's mistake as he rolled across the track in front of me. He was trying to exit, to be fair to him. Just after I hit him, he did manage to disappear, so he was trying to exit, but he didn't keep his foot on the brake. And it was really unfortunate. So I was back in the pits with the meatball flag, but I still managed to gain. I think I got up to a position where I chased someone down, finished in like 6th, and gained something like 4 I rating. So it wasn't great, but it wasn't a loss. But yeah, just look at this race here with us three. I mean, this carried on like that all the way through. So 2 more things before we go. We're going to just cover my licenses, and then we're going to talk about my aims for next week. So if you've been watching previous videos, you'll know that I had a good week a few weeks ago in sports car, and then I had a really, really bad week the one after. So we peaked, where you can see that little peak there, we peaked at 1659, and then it dropped to a little over 1400. But after a couple of better weeks, I haven't done that many races, but a couple of more positive races, we're getting back to nearly where we were. We're at 1617. So my goal for this week is to get past the 1700 mark and keep it there this time. Because I felt like that's where I should be, and that's where I got close to when I had a really, really bad run of it, which wasn't actually my fault. I switched into GT Freeze for a bit. I wasn't particularly competitive, but I was constantly caught up in other people's banging. So, you know, when I didn't get caught in accidents, I made a little bit of a gain by just scraping into the top half of the field. But the ones where I got caught up in the nonsense, I managed to lose quite a bit. So, so that's my goal for that. And then if we look at the formula side of it, so a couple of weeks ago we were at 1880, and then we had a little drop off on the last night of the week, and we went down to 1866, and then we stayed pretty constant. So I think at the beginning of this week we were about 1870, and then like I say, we peaked at 1927, and I was all geared up to pass the 2k mark and celebrate basically. And then after a bit of a bad run of it, I think I mentioned earlier, we ended up on back below 1900. So we ended up on 1888, which is where you can see that little dip at the end, but at the beginning of the week we were at 1869, so a very small raise overall. Now it's going to take way too long to get to 2000 if I keep going at that pace, so I need to pull my socks up and get back into it. But the way I managed to improve this week was definitely by doing a couple of things. There was niching down and concentrating on basically mostly the Mazda at Atlanta and a little bit of Civic at Atlanta, and then in the Formula side of it I did nothing else but the 1600s at Bathurst. I did a bit more practice. I started thinking about fuel a little bit. Using the fuel calculator in Race Labs was really useful. So those 2 things really, really helped me. And yeah, the final thing on the list really is to tell you what my goals are for this week. So I think I've already alluded to it, but for the race sports car side of racing, I really want to push myself over the 1700s and stay there consistently. It's never been that high. There's a possibility that I'll get there with a good lucky race and then it will drop back down again. But getting it over 1700 and staying there is going to be my next milestone. And then over the next couple of weeks and towards the end of the season, if I can get it to 2000, then I will be a happy little bunny. And then on the Formula side of it, I just want to get to this 2k and keep it there. I think when I look at the race statistics, the lap times and stuff, my pace certainly this week got me into that percentile of where that's a real possibility. It will depend on the car and the track. It will depend on the number of splits. Obviously, that has a big impact on the safety and where you can finish. But I'm prepared to give it a go, and I really want to work at it. So that's going to be my focus. So let me know in the comments what you're going to be focusing on for week 5 of the iRacing season 4. And then, yeah, maybe I'll see you out on the track. But like I say, if you like what you see, do let me know in the comments if you've got any feedback. If you think it went on a bit too long, because I do tend to want to share quite a bit and then end up talking for quite a while. I fully intended on this being about 10 minutes, ends up being about 15 minutes. But yeah, I think that's the way it is. There's always quite a lot to share, and this week was a particularly good week. So a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of good things to tell you guys. But let me know what you think. If you think it went on too long, let me know. Let me know what you're focusing on. Let me know what you think of the slightly different intro, the graphics, the replays, the overlays, all the things that I'm tweaking over time. Would be really good to know if I'm going in the right direction and if it's something that you enjoy. So I have been just another sim guy. If you've stayed to the end, put the word "I finished." In fact, that's 2 words, isn't it? Put the words "I finished" into the comments so I know you've done it, and it would be really good to know if people do manage to stay till the end. Okay, have a great day, everyone. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you on track. Peace.